Okay, this subject I want to bring up. I'm really this is a tough subject to bring up. So I met a lot of famous people. I met, famous male models, famous female models. I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to explain to you the story on why I'm very careful on what I say and what I do. And I don't bolster myself. I don't do a version of what you call peacocking. And it has to do with things with my Professor Sharon and Professor Allison at these Ivy League universities and the state university and the city university and etc. It has to do with things related to private school, meaning the private universities. So, the second time I went away to school, I was at SUNY Buffalo and I was taking courses in computer engineering. And I was with my friend Dan, and Dan is related to my friend Dan, or Danny is related to his relatives are related to the DeMayo family, and they're very well known as well. So Danny and I were in school together, and he was a little bit older than me. That would be like my friend. See, I had a friend named Peter. It would be his cousin, and he's older. He was like, let's just say 3 or 4 years older than me. So Danny and I were we were in computer engineering school, and we were looking at things related to Linux and things related to the Pyron programming system. And we had this O'Reilly, that's the O apostrophe R E I L L Y, and the McGraw-Hill books. Books related to those subjects that have to do with computer engineering. Things that have to do with computer science. Things that have to do with electrical engineering. They're topics related to the things that I'm about to explain. So, my professor, Professor Gray, that's Grey, was at Cornell University with my friend Danny at the time. So I didn't have a job at that time. I had like a certain point in my life where it was just dead. I didn't have any job, and that happened rarely. I was mostly working most of the time. So he introduced me to Professor Gray. Introduced me to a woman named Melissa. I'm not going to mention her last name because that's not really important. Melissa was a vice president who worked at Nike, the corporation, the headquarters in the city. And I was in Ithaca at that point, Ithaca, New York. Ithaca is different from SUNY Buffalo, but I'm bringing up Ithaca because I want to bring up the subject. Professor Gray taught at 2 different universities. Professor Gray taught at SUNY Buffalo, and he also taught at Cornell University, because some professors teach in state universities or city universities, and they also teach at a private university or an Ivy League. So that's what I want to bring up. So he introduced me, Professor Gray introduced me to Melissa. She was the vice president, that she was under the board of directors that was dealing with the IT department, which is technical support, which is informational technology. That's what it means. That's what it stands for, informational technology. So the chief informational officer, that's the position under the board of directors. Melissa basically explained you had to go to 3 interviews. So I had to go through 3 people that Melissa had brought me to. I had to speak to the human resources director and etc. And we had to go through this rigor mortis or boring thing, and I had to go back and forth from my car with my car at the time. And at the time, I had gotten a Toyota Tacoma, because Danny and I had the car together. So I had to be driving back and forth multiple times. And this is where I'm going to try and explain something. In my life, I was told by my grandparents, do not make up stories. Do not fabricate. Do not make up a story. Because nobody wants to hear a made up story. They want facts. And that's something that some of these comedians in the industry would explain. They want facts. That's the whole purpose of them telling a story. So I met a lot of these male actors, female actresses. They're all correlated with what I'm about to say. So I went through the interview process. They said, okay, you have to go through the university program. Not only did I get an internship program there, I got one at LLB because my previous boss, prior to Nike, I did stuff with LLB first, but I didn't talk about it. I put it in the resume, but I discussed it more in the interview process. And that's something that you have to be professional about in an interview process. You can't tell them everything. You just have to state facts. Don't state opinions in the interview process. So when I was there, I did traveling a lot. When I was in there, I was there for 2.5 years. Just like I was at LL Bean for 2.5 years. Yes, I did have to explain certain things. But Melissa didn't just do one job. She had another job. Most of these people in the industry, when you're an entrepreneur, they don't have one job. They got dual jobs. Dual meaning two jobs. So she was doing that, and she was doing stuff for a couple of these modeling agencies that she got me internship programs. That's related to LL Bean and these other companies. And that's what I started understanding. There were programming errors going on with the companies because none of the stuff was updated. They were using old process servers systems that Danny and I had to explain in, SUNY Buffalo. But we didn't stay at SUNY Buffalo. We went from SUNY Buffalo to Cornell University because they had better academic programs. They had better resources than SUNY Buffalo did with certain subjects and topics. And that's very hard. So when I was there, I did a lot of traveling. I went over to Europe. Not just for the internship programs, not just for the career, but also for the university and the college, because I took foreign language courses. I did things related to foreign language. And that's what I'm trying to explain. Those things, there's a difference in our economy in Europe. There's a difference between the European economy and the United States economy. Just like there's a difference between an automatic car and a stick shift car, or what you call a manual car, manual meaning United States, European meaning a version of United Kingdom or France. There's this different stick shift system or manual system that they use. United States use different metric systems than the European metric system. And that's certain things that was discussed in Europe because they use different sizes. And women's sizes is a lot different than men's sizes in Europe. Just like they have certain things with dresses and business attire, outfits, and etc. So these are things that I had to comprehend and understand in the job market. Certain subjects and certain topics need to be explained in college because when you're in the career field, like a modeling field, it's completely different than when you're in a university. They talk about topics and subjects. In the job market or the career market, you're applying that, and there's a complete difference. It's like the difference is, what is the difference between a waiter and what is the difference between a bartender? They're similar in nature, but they're completely different things. It has to do with a restaurant. Restaurants can have bars. Restaurants cannot have bars. And there are certain subjects that I did have to explain in college. And that's why you're not allowed to plagiarize. Plagiarism has to do with things related to fraud or errors. It's like making up a story. You can't make up a story at a hospital. You can't make up a story in a courthouse. And these are things that I had to discuss. Had to meaning force. I'm using have, has, and had. Because certain people, even in the Ivy League schools, even in the private schools, use have, had, and has. Till this day. Which is grammatical errors, drives me crazy. Because I did over 50, 60 credits worth of it. Because I had to retake courses too many times. Because apparently in these schools, they like to just bust people's balls like John and Danny's relatives. And these are things that I just had to explain. Does it look like I'm in a good mood right now? You can see my facial expression. Does it look like I'm in a great mood when I don't want to explain certain things over and over again? Do you know what the problem is nowadays? I'm going to explain this about security officers and things related to emergency medical technicians. You're not allowed to be paying the minimum wage when they have a license or credentials. Let me repeat that. You're not allowed to be paying the minimum wage when they have a license or credentials. Do you get the picture of what I'm talking about? Does it make sense to you why I don't play games with people when it comes to business and when it comes to life? Does it look like my friend Danny and I find this hilarious, what's going on in our economy? Because I don't find it funny. I find it insulting that you can't seem to contact my relatives. And that's what I'm mainly getting to with this Uncle John show. It seems to me your relatives, and I'm saying this, are childish. And it's insulting to me how you can't seem to get sentences straight, and how you like to lie and manipulate people, and how for 2.5 years, might as well be 13 years, I don't appreciate people looking into my transcripts nor my employment history, and how it's not funny anymore, and how I want to get to a point. You know, we're getting close to the holidays here. And I like to get things done. I don't like wasting people's time. So I appreciate when I, do these shows or I do certain things related to my career. I don't find it funny when you put me in a medical hospital. I don't find it funny when I'm in a courthouse and I'm crying and I'm complaining because you people don't seem to get it. You're not allowed to be touching medical records, just like you're not allowed to be touching legal records as well that have to do with sensitive topics. It's not funny that I see in the internet, the AG, and all these people, you think that this Epstein Island incident is hilarious. I don't find it funny because I had to testify about that stuff in the court system. Yes, I had to testify about that Epstein Island in the court system during Hurricane Sandy. My friend Oscar was crippled. You people are comedians. You think it's funny to go after disabled people. You think it's funny that it's hilarious to experiment on certain people. And you do experiments. You do experiments at these hospitals, at these medical facilities, and you think it's funny playing God, and you're not seeming to understand. There are causes and effects to life, and when you play God, when you do this judge, jury, and executioner equivalent, when you say, I'm going to play God with somebody like myself, because let me tell you something, Joshua Christ, not just him, prior to that, there was Prophet Joseph. There was Prophet Joshua prior to this. You played the same exact game for centuries, and you think it's a freaking joke. You don't experiment on medication because some people can't take certain things. Certain people have allergies. Certain people have reactions. So I don't find it particularly funny when I'm in court or I'm at a hospital and I'm telling those people you're not supposed to be doing certain things, meaning you're not allowed to be doing certain things. So why are you playing games for 2.5 years that might as well be 13 years? Does it seem to me that it's funny to me? It's not funny anymore. And I'm going to just say this. You have to start explaining what a contract has to do with Social Security and a financial debt or a social debt. You can't have a debt on somebody's certificate, a birth certificate, because it's not, I'm going to repeat this, it's not notarized. Because Lyshore had me notarize things, meaning I had to take a class like I had to take the MLO, the mortgage loan originator. So do you think those people, the person that designed Lyshore Real Estate, the school, do you think that his work is not worth it? Because he trained most of some of your relatives, and it's not funny anymore. You need to have things notarized in the hospital system. You need to have things notarized in the medical system. Medical meaning legal system, meaning the courthouses, has to be notarized. How can you prove anything without any evidence? How can you prove anything without God not being able to have a camera system? He knows where you're going. He knows if you're lying or not. And that's what I'm trying to say with the purpose of this video. That's why it's a very sore subject with me, with the modeling industry, with the cosmetic business, with the clothing business to begin with. Because you're having me do stuff, you think that John or some of my relatives are like the puppeteers. And I'm not a puppeteer. I don't manipulate people. I don't influence people. I don't lie. And I sit here in my uncle's house and I find it so hilarious that he's got a crate that's affiliated with the Russian government. You have a crate that's down the road right here that's affiliated with the Russian government. That's from a freight yard in Manhattan District. And you think it's funny. So I just find it just hilarious that you're so childish you can't even contact your own relative or tell him the truth. That's what I find hilarious. And that's why I can't wait till this holiday season comes around. So take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day.